What's going on, America? Welcome to Kevin's Corner. First of all, I'd like to start off by saying that I am so sorry for all of the people who lost their lives in Vegas. It was an unnecessary, heinous, tragic situation. It's hard to even imagine what you would do in a situation like that. And, I appreciate all the people and the citizens who came together and helped. And also all the police officers who were quick, Johnny on the spot, to neutralize the threat. And so they should be commended. And unfortunately, when stuff like this happens, you always are going to get people on the left and politicians who say, never let a good tragedy go to waste, such as people like Hillary Clinton. Why won't she just go somewhere and sit down, disappear, stop talking, stop sticking your foot all the way into your mouth? If I was a Democrat, I would be telling her, don't say another word. You are messing it up for us for 2020. When you come out immediately, double talking, saying, I'm not trying to politicize it, but we should attack the NRA. That's all political. Had the nerve to bring up stuff like silencers. How would a silencer have contributed to even more deaths? I'm not sure if she's aware of this, but first of all, I can't recall one mass murder that even used a silencer. I don't know of I don't even know of any murders that took place in the United States that when they described it on the news, said the person who shot this other person used a silencer. Secondly, a silencer on a machine gun is very ineffective. It would probably burn the silencer up within seconds. And thirdly, silencers are not really silent. They still kick off a nice loud sound. And you would still be able to determine where the silencer is. But people like Hillary Clinton, they don't scream what they say. They just impulsively come out and throw it out there. And for people who are ignorant, it just makes them get even madder. And that's the sad part about politicizing situations like this. It doesn't help. It doesn't create any dialogue. It just opens up more anger. And it's all designed to point the finger at conservatives, at the NRA, misplaced blame. Whatever happened to people doing stuff just because they're crazy? And I know it's hard for us to have closure when we can't find a real reason for something that there is no reason. And the bottom line is, I say this all the time, but this is a true statement in this circumstance. You just cannot make sense out of nonsense. You can't give me a good reason why someone would go up there and decide to open fire on innocent people. I don't care if it's politically motivated. I don't care if your wife left you. I don't care if you lost your job. I don't care if you was diagnosed with a terminal disease. I don't care what the scenario is. To do that, if you're that depressed, if you're that mad, take your own life, but don't try to take everybody else with you. It's horrible. And when people try to rationalize it and come up with reasons, whether it be politically motivated to come up with a reason or not, some point you just have to conclude you just can't make sense out of this type of nonsense. But to politicize it really makes me mad. And it's sad because you have people that on the left, you never hear people on the right, whether they be in politics, the media, or just regular humans, you rarely hear them look at a situation that happened to a lot of innocent victims and just say, you know what? They deserved it. About time somebody did something to all of those liberals who were running around blank, 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 and blank. But lately, you have seen this, after this election, people have lost their jobs. And these are people who work for the media by making comments that justify tragedies happening to people who they feel deserve it because they are conservatives or supported Donald Trump. A lady who worked for CBS last night said they all probably deserved it because, most likely most of them voted for Donald Trump. Another guy, I forget, he must have been a liberal at a college or something, but he said the people in Texas probably deserved the hurricane because of that. And they're not seeing how, even though you have this media frenzy and you have the left pointing the finger at all life's problems on conservatives and on Donald Trump and all that stuff, people still are not ready to embrace justifying something like that happening and blaming it on the fact that these people deserve it. But here is the danger in that. If you start listening to a lot of the language and the terms and the definitions that they are giving to people who are conservative or people on the left or Trump supporters, they are now doing their best to dehumanize people by saying you're evil, wicked, racist, and all of these other terms that they're coming up to justify first why someone would vote for Donald Trump, then also to justify their outrage and their anger and not have to put forth any reasoning or logic or debate concerning the policies. It's all about you're evil, you're wicked. What this is doing, and the reason this is so dangerous, when you look at the way Nazi Germany kind of took over and convinced all of those followers to do the horrific acts they did to the Jews, to make someone get to the point where they have no moral compass, when they feel nothing, no remorse about a group of people, when these people are killed or harmed or doing harm to these group of people, you have to first demoralize or dehumanize the group of people that you want harmed or killed. You have to start to brainwash a large mass of people to say they're not really human like you. Hitler started making it appear that the Jews were subhuman. It's not really like killing us or regular people. Killing Jews aren't like killing everybody else. It's the same thing that almost a Navy SEAL or someone that works in a special unit where their job is to go out and take out enemies of the United States. They compartmentalize it. They justify by saying they're not like us. They are enemies. That allows them to say, you know what? I will kill them. Won't feel the same way I would if I was to kill somebody in my mind was an innocent American or one of our allies or someone who didn't deserve it. But you have to convince yourself that killing that particular person is okay because they deserved it. They're evil. And once you convince a large group of people that, hey, it's okay to do that by calling a certain group of people evil, by constantly suggesting that there should be some type of punishment for this group of people because of the way they think or the way they act or the things they do, so on and so forth. If you are not careful with that type of speech and demonizing of a group of people, at some point you can convince a large sum of people that it's okay for something like that to happen to them because look at them, look how they are. And I'm upset that all of these liberals, all of these Democrats, all of the media, they don't address or attack when people come out and say horrific things about Trump supporters, their assumptions of what Trump supporters believe and why they voted. They don't really check people who make horrible claims and demonize people on the right. They don't do that. They kind of say, well, we want to keep them thinking negatively about them. But what happens when it goes so far, when it goes to the point where it manifests itself in violence? They did not check Antifa forever. They let them get away with that violence until they absolutely had to come out and say, okay, fine, Antifa is a violent group. But they wanted to suppress, and even people in the media are still trying to downplay the level of violence that Antifa is bringing. It's almost like they're going, well, violence against Trump supporters is okay. Or violence against certain types of people is okay. If they don't stop doing this, it's going to just explode and become something horrific. And whether you are a conservative or a liberal, instead of you demonizing people, because see, that's like me going around saying all people that are liberals are dumb and they don't think like real high level functioning human beings. Therefore, we can't count them as real humans. So when bad things happen to them, hey, it's okay. I mean, they're not really like us. So we on either side can't do that when it comes to the media. You cannot justify terms and opinions that you can't prove, motives. Everything that people on the right or conservatives do or think or pass or support, the left always assign motives that demonize them. And if you're not a higher functioning person, if you're an emotional person, a person that just listens and responds immediately or believes whatever they're told, you would start to say, wow, so the motive of what that person said was racism? The motive of what that person said was hatred towards gays? The motive of what that person suggested or voted for was because they hate Mexicans? The motive of that person saying, don't let everybody come into our country that we can't vet is because they hate Muslims? When you start assigning motives to everything that is done that you don't agree with, now you demonize that person. And if you reinforce that constantly, you can convince many people that they're not like everybody else. Therefore, they're not fully entitled to the same punishment or rules or guidelines that us normal moral people are. And thus you have a lot of people, when stuff like this happen, are now coming out saying things. And these are people on the left are saying, well, they deserved it because they probably were. And that's horrible. It's horrible. And the Democrats and the liberal media needs to stop that. They need to check these people. They need to denounce that stuff. They need to make sure. See, what it is, when it's drastic, like what this lady said on CBS, yes, they will say we condemn that. But to get to that point, it's the little things that are said when you watch CNN commentators. He's a this, he's a that, and these people are this type of people. They don't come out and say they deserve punishment or death or stuff like that. But when you start throwing those little darts constantly, I talk to people all the time and immediately they go in believing that, man, all of those Trump supporters are this. All of you black people who voted for Trump are this, and that. When they never want to really say, well, let me calm down and see logically what you're talking about. They immediately shut you down and assume you're evil because of what you believe or support. And that type of reinforcement is dangerous to our society. And I'm not saying this man's motive was to kill a whole bunch of people because of any political reasons or whatever. We don't know his motive. That's the point. So to come out and start saying things like, well, gun control could fix this, it's stupid. For this lady to get on and say, well, all those people probably, I ain't got no sympathy for them because they were Trump. You don't know if he killed them because he felt they were Trump supporters. And secondly, if he was supposed to be this gun-toting NRA type person, hunter and all that stuff, the last group of people he would want to kill is Trump supporters. If you're going to go out and throw stuff out like that, use some reasoning. I forget what magazine or news cover said, well, notice all the mass killings are done by white people. And Mark Dice brought out something that the left won't talk about. And even some African Americans won't talk about. They'll jump on something like, oh yeah, man, you don't see black people killing people in mass numbers. You are right. That ain't our MO. Nevertheless, he brought out a point. 50% black men make up 7% of the population. But 50% of the murders are done by black people, black men. But nobody says, well, look, most of the killing is done in our society. It's done by black men. So here's the solution. Why don't we get rid of all the black men in America and the crime rate will go down 50%? So when you throw out statements that is really biased and designed to create emotional responses, anger, division, you're not even using any reasoning. You ain't equally distributing some of the causes that's going on in America that's contributing to these thoughts, these behaviors. You're speaking ill-advised, just random thoughts that you've been programmed to speak, and you're not even using any reasoning. So America, we all need to calm down and at least let a week or so go by, get the facts, and during that time, simply pray for the victims and go that route. But to jump out there immediately and start trying to politicize something, Hillary Clinton should be ashamed of herself. Some of these media comments should be ashamed of themselves. People trying to justify it, shutting down gun control before any of the facts come out should be ashamed of themselves. The people aren't even out of the hospital. The dead ain't buried. And they're out there talking about, you know what would have prevented this or solved it? Gun control. It's ridiculous. It doesn't make sense. And in this case, sincerely, I mean this. You cannot make sense out of this nonsense. That's just me, Kev Corner. By the way, somebody said something that was pretty cool. They said, you know what your slogan should be is people who subscribe to your channel and like what you say, they should say, hey, I'm in Kevin's corner. I said, man, that's pretty cool. I'm gonna use it. You know, I don't want you now suing me later on. But if you're in Kevin's corner and you support what I'm talking about, please click like, share my videos, subscribe, and of course, check out the link in the bottom. I do have some pretty online t-shirts that just talk about what's going on around in the world and how liberals, man, they're killing us here. But anyway, God bless. Take care. Bye-bye.